was kind of fate that brought me into this line. Started practicing and started training with my ustad from the Qawwal Bache Delhi Gharana, Ustad Rauf Sami, and his father Ustad Nasiruddin Sami. Unke saath, as I kind of started my musical practice very late in my life, because that was something I wanted to do for myself. Coke Studio happened at the same time. I was fortunate enough to be a part of a network where I was able to audition for the producers with, Coke Studio 11, I think it was, with Ali Hamza and Zoeb Kazi. And so that kind of spiraled into me being part of the following seasons. Coke Studio was, working with Ruhail and with the whole team of Coke Studio, really, because there is an army of people that work to support this whole platform. And I was part of that. It was really great to kind of see how an entire production comes together to put this up. At the same time, I would say that this is a challenge for many younger, many artists, female artists, because it's kind of being able to get noticed in the circles who are really the decision makers.
Coke Studio especially has put Pakistani music on the global map. There are lists of names of artists who these very platforms have been they've been responsible for transforming lives.
True.
Myself included. I'm a walking, talking, singing, dancing example of that. And it has created a whole ecosystem where every season you see new artists being introduced, from absolutely unknown to indie to all kinds and mainstream, and it just comes and brings and mixes them all up. You also see covers, you also see originals. I think that we should be more grateful because there was nothing else happening. Na Tutiyave, an amazing, like seriously gift. It's a gift because it's a very special song. That song is a work of like radical feminist poetry. So I am very proud that the season opened with a female anthem.
It's amazing to see all the women kind of come together and sound like all kind of as the same sort of voice. I think that was Ruhail's kind of magic touch in post-production, where he was able to kind of make us all of these different unique voices sound as one voice. And but at the same time you can also see each or hear each artist's distinct voice kind of shining through as well. I think the lyrics were really meaningful. It was in Punjabi. It was a grassroots kind of like women's experience and anthem. And it was about, giving women the respect and dignity in our society. And I thought that was very, very powerful. I think women would relate to is that, your childlike bursting energy and innocence is kind of really beaten as a woman as you grow older, because you're expected to conform to certain rules and certain ways of being, certain decorum, how to behave, how to sit. And so I definitely think that kind of complete, openness that I had towards dance and music definitely like dimmed over the years because of how I saw society look at females particularly, you know, performing or dancing or singing in public.
A lot harder for women to get a hold of instruments, you know, to have people who are not discouraging around them. Abhi, for example, if I tell a random boy, ke, Acha, you can come over to my studio and you can record vocals and we'll collaborate. He's like, yeah, fit, I'll come. If I tell a girl, she's gonna, this has happened many times with me actually. She's like, I have to check with my family and my parents would like to meet you first. But the religious connotations attached to it. At a certain point, मुझे इतना सुनने को मिला था from some रिश्तेदार that I actually considered selling my guitar.
My dad found out and he was furious. He was like, stick to like stuff that's actually gonna be helpful to you in the future. And शुरू से एक वो बस बना हुआ था कि, you know, this is just like a side thing. उस time फिर वो इतना seriously मुझे किसी ने लेने नहीं दिया.
Art. So, like in acting, if you're doing a character, मैं आज एक murderer का character करता हूँ, it doesn't mean that I become a murderer. I'm doing my job. It's a job like anything else. So that's what they're doing. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're saying these words so they believe in it. They're advocating कि आप भी ये करो.
डिग्री ले लो और कुछ और करना, because obviously it's not just कि मैं लड़की हूँ, but लड़के के लिए भी it's always like पहले पढ़ाई करो and get a good job, get a 9-to-5 job. Also, you know, there's certain professions which are considered more acceptable. तो obviously as a musician तो वो तो बिल्कुल भी कभी भी encourage इस तरह से किया नहीं गया. और मुझे as a passion, as a hobby, because I was so interested in it, obviously that was always there within my upbringing and my household, but never as a profession.
I feel like families in our part of the world have a lot to do with this. Families still aren't very supportive about males going into music or going into arts, let alone females. It itself is a very difficult kind of a field. It requires a lot of time. It requires a lot of effort. I genuinely don't know why there aren't enough female producers. So I think maybe there's a stigma that a music producer has to be like male.
I mean, it's a stereotype, which I understand why, but it also needs to be broken at some point. That if women are in the music industry, they have to be singers. उसके अलावा नहीं हो सकते. So it's like I was even talking to Nadir and Ali about this in Sikandar Ka Mandir. I was telling them कि मुझे personally लगता है कि even though I do co-produce with Ali all the songs that we've released since I joined, पूरी एक album है, उसके बाद भी गाने हैं. Even though I do that, it's a lot easier for people to assume Ali is the sole producer than for them to assume that I'm the sole producer. And I think it's just the way people think. So any sort of a musician's club, any sort of musician's union, you're going to notice it's going to be like 99% men. You're going to see that regardless. Like WhatsApp group ho, usme sare mard, and then like ek aurat, you know? Is tarah se it's going to be everywhere you go in this country.
There are platforms, but there are not enough platforms. There are certain efforts that people are taking independently. So for instance, I'm part of a WhatsApp group. Okay, this is women, Pakistani female musicians that are part of this WhatsApp group, and they all support each other, and you know, they all are kind of connected on this WhatsApp group, and they all share their music, and it's called Women in Music. It's again, this is not like kind of being organized as some sort of organization, but it's being led privately by women themselves, right? And I think those sorts of networks are the most powerful and the most effective. There is another organization that does the Women in the World Festival. I think it's funded by the British Council. And so these sorts of platforms, I think, are where women get this space and are able to kind of, you know, come together but we need more of them, and they don't exist at a very institutional level, you know, so, or at a very structural level, and that's where the biggest gaps are.
The problems that women have faced forever now is because they have been isolated. And when do people get isolated? They get isolated when their stories aren't heard, when they are not heard. I think it's important that we should have platforms that are given to women.
But I would also say that once women, you know, reach a particular status within the industry, they're almost, you know, like as I mean, Abda ji, you could say that is one of the highest paid artists, you know, compared to many of the males as well because of her status.
मस्त होके गावा दुनिया राजी करके कमले फिर भी चैन नहीं होना सारी खुशियां मिल जावड़ते पीछे की रह जाना सारी खुशियां मिल जावड़ते पीछे की रह जाना तेरे बस में कुछ भी नहीं है दिल में समझावा तू झूम 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 झूम
So there are women that are able to get there, but obviously that doesn't mean that the path is equally available to everybody, and that also that every woman can easily get there. There are definitely a lot more social and cultural challenges for women within the industry as well. You know, I wrote this article for Himal South Asian. It's called Malikas of Yesteryear. And in that, I mean, it was still an ongoing research of mine of kind of documenting and archiving some of Pakistan's forgotten female musicians, but those that came from hereditary performance backgrounds, right? So historically, musicians have come from a particular performing caste. So वो खानदानी musicians रहे हैं. मर्दों के साथ भी है, औरतों के साथ भी ये रहा है. But the turn of this century, like the 20th century, there was quite a negative status associated with these women, you know, because they were associated with the courtesan as the tawaif, and so they were considered, you know, as women of bad character. And they were actually there is a whole literature around this of why the singing woman kind of became like the worst kind of model for women. And that's one of the reasons why this is also kind of discouraged as a profession, you know, in our society till today. You know, one of our biggest classical music artists is Roshanara Begum, who I don't mention in that article because she herself doesn't really say that I'm from a performance background, because these women often didn't want to admit in public कि वो actually is khandan से आई थी, because there was so much stigma associated with them, right? So it becomes really complicated on how to even tell their stories when they don't want to say कि we actually come from a dasi or from a musician background. The challenges that women have had to go through, Alka Phukraj and people like Iqbal Bano, Farida Khanum, Roshana Begum, she was one of our best classical musicians that we had. We all talk about, you know, Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan, but she was really up there, you know, and kind of literally worshipped as Saraswati in the south of India. So I really think that, I mean, I'm not practicing the same, I mean, I don't perform the same kind of music, but she has obviously been an inspiration. And women like that have been an inspiration because they continue to pursue this profession in such a dignified way, and despite like all the odds kind of against them, you know. Roshana Begum ji, it's like there is a lot of literature out there that, you know, she kind of went into her little cocoon and stopped performing because she got married, and, you know, she was kind of discouraged to go perform in public. It's the same story with Begum Akhtar, you know, that they kind of gave up this and felt so sick and so unwell, Begum Akhtar, that her husband finally said, Acha nahi tum, you know, because she said, theek hai tum gaa lo ab. You really must, because, you know, her mother passed away or something, and this was her catharsis.
हमारी तो ये हालत थी कि गाना तो दरकिनार, हम गुनगुनाना भी भूल गए थे. ऐसा लगता था कि कुछ खो गया है.
Same with Roshana Begum. I mean, for so many years, she kind of stopped this, and the reality is that because of the taboos associated with women singing in public, this was one of the reasons why they stopped.
आके तो मैं कोई साल डेढ़ साल तक गाई नहीं थी. बिल्कुल ही नहीं गाई थी. उसके बाद फिर लोगों ने, पिचौई साहब ने भी कहा कि रहने दें, यहाँ कोई ऐसा माहौल नहीं है और मुझे खुदा न करे कोई ज़रूरत भी नहीं है कि आप गाएं, तो ही है तो आप बैठे आराम करें.
मिस्टर भुट्टो की हुकूमत ख़त्म हो चुकी है. सारे मुल्क में माशाल्लाह नाफिज कर दिया गया है. कौमी और सूबाई असम्बलियाँ तोड़ दी गई हैं. सूबाई गवर्नर और वजीर हटा दिए गए हैं। अलबत्ता आइन को मनसूख नहीं किया गया है। इसके बाद हिस्सों पर अमल दरामद रोक लिया गया है।
और अहले हकम के सर पर जब बिजली कड़कड़ कड़केगी, लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे।
Zia Saab gently came in, took away everything, and a plane crashed. And then these shoulders, artists, were supposed to bring that culture back with no support from the country. And they did. I think they have done wonders from where we started to where we were not supposed to dance. We were not allowed to wear ghungroos. We were not allowed to go on stage without a hijab.
Challenges are not the same because they're different now because times have changed and also society norms have changed, they've evolved. There are lots of women in the industry as well now, and it's not just that women who came from this kind of khandani musician family are only doing music. It's people from non-musician families like myself, like so many other musicians in the industry, you know, who also pursued a degree in education and did other things, have also come into this profession. Also come in a more technologically kind of connected world, and this gives women a lot of space to be able to literally record themselves from their rooms.
Hi guys, this is Mahnoor.
मेरा नाम उमर है और मैं कराची से हूँ। मैं एक म्यूजिशियन हूँ।
Social media platforms help.
So I was uploading covers for fun. I realized that it actually has an impact on people who were getting guitars, and like people would tag me in their stories like, hey, I got a guitar and I'm gonna learn how to play it. I was like, that is so cool. I love that, and that kind of made me want to not stop doing what I do. This part was that the crowd was so nice. And everybody was singing along, and I was like, लोगों को मेरे गाने के lyrics आते हैं, wow.
फैंस मुझे बड़ा अजीब सा लगता है, पता नहीं क्यों मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि सब दोस्त हैं मेरे जो सुन रहे हैं। तो अगर वो लोग ना होते तो शायद कुछ भी ना होता। मतलब अगर कोई सुनता ही नहीं तो मैं क्या ही कर रहा होता, तो मैं क्यों ही बनाता ये सब।
Because it's also a tough audience, ना? People of the subcontinent are very harsh with their criticism. इंटरनेट पे बहुत सख्त हो जाते हैं।
बहुत रुकावटें आती हैं, लोग बहुत कुछ बोलते हैं, लेकिन वही लोग कि फिर बच्चे आके आपको बोलते हैं बिग फैन। तो ये बस रुकने वाला काम नहीं है।
The audience is finally listening. I think around about 2015, I remember as a festival, as an individual, we had to kind of beg people to listen to upcoming artists. We had to kind of really con them into coming in and just opening their ears and being open in terms of like allowing these artists to come into their hearts and live there.
नताशा नुरानी वो अब आएगी और आपको एक नगमा सुनाएगी बहुत ही प्यारा।
अब कहाँ मैं जाऊँ ना तेरी बाहों से पाऊँ क्या, दुखी को देख के हुई रवाना एक ही रास्ता पर बात के खिलाफ बोले मेरे अपने ख्वाब।
The really great thing about right now is that whatever this new wave of artists and producers, whoever they are, there's a sense of openness to it, right? There's a sense of people wanting to collaborate with each other. There's no मैं तुमसे बड़ा artist हूँ तो ये होगा, you know, मैं नहीं कर सकता आपके साथ कोई काम, या oh you are in my DMs. Like none of that is happening. It is very much like there's constant support going around in that way, and there's a lot less drama.
Most progression I've ever made as a musician has been through collaboration. So I remember that the reason I even joined Sikandar Ka Mandir in the first place was because Nadir and Ali are such great songwriters. To appreciate another artist, another producer's work is very integral to making sure that you understand you are not always going to be the best, that there's always going to be room for improvement.
एक एम्बिशियस बच्चा नहीं होता, मतलब आपका एक फ़ैन होता है और आपको मतलब बहुत सारे मैसेजेस कर रहा होता है. मैंने दिखाया, मैंने बोला, इसकी मैंने डिस्प्ले पिक्चर देखी तो इतना सा बिल्कुल ना छोटा सा बेबी जो है ना, मैंने बोला कि यार क्रेजी, मतलब और उसका कॉन्फिडेंस ऐसे कि कहना है वर्क विथ यू ब्रो. और उसने मुझे जो है ना लिंक भेजा अपना, मैंने उसकी बीट सुनी एंड दे वर प्रीटी गुड. द फर्स्ट सॉन्ग वी डिड विद हिम वाज असली है.
असली है.
असली है जो भी नजर में वो असली है, नकली है ये तेरी हसल नहीं मोनोपोली है, रख ली है ये बात मैंने लिख के रख ली है कि बॉय
Fusion has been taking place for a very long time, much before Coke Studio really. Since Alan Fakir and Mohammad Ali Sheikhi, that was like an iconic fusion kind of song that they did, and 90s pop, and Nazia Hassan was doing fusion, and probably even before that.
I think आप जितना फ्यूजन, जितना एक्सपेरिमेंटल म्यूजिक करोगे, उतना चांसेस है उन ट्रैक्स का और उस म्यूजिक का to reach different parts of the world, apart from your own country. So I am all for fusions. I try to incorporate it in my tracks very intentionally, and I do feel like it will open this kind of genre and this kind of treatment with music will open doorways for Pakistani artists to the world. Like आपका music बाहर तक पहुंचेगा इसके through.
You have heard in the last 10 years more Balochi music than you ever have.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's why Sindhi music is like, you know, coming up. A lot of that is like happening. And even from like Hunza and KPK, you are able to just hear far more than you were able to, and that then reaches more people.
If a dish only has one ingredient, it would only attract a person that likes that ingredient. But if it has different ingredients, if it has a taste of a bit of everything, so more people would be attracted to that dish. So similarly, agar ek Gana is a fusion, so fusion makes a track more attractive and more approachable to all kinds of audiences. So I am all for like mixing up genres in one track. Now people see the potential that music has. आप literally कराची में बैठे you can have a global hit.
I think that it is like a time for women to really come and blossom and, you know, not be fearful, really accept and own themselves, which I think earlier generations might have really hesitated with, but now I think that's what's really exciting for me, to see younger women kind of really motivated and pushing back on norms and really critically challenging them, but also doing it in very sensitive ways, you know.
I feel like, you know, very soon it's going to be out with the old, in with the new, because this generation is not in the mood for nonsense.
The men, from the very little that I've observed, I think younger men are also becoming more and more aware.
They are becoming way more conscious about what's right and what's wrong, what the problems are, and what needs to be corrected.
You have to have some sort of a faith if you're going to be in a field like this. Varna mushkil hota hai. So I personally, I needed to reconcile what I was hearing with what I believe, with what I want to do. And it took a while for me to finally understand that if I wasn't meant to do this, I wouldn't be this good at it.